Hi, thanks for tuning in. This is a weekend review for the week ending October 28th, 2022. We're looking at a weekly chart of the S&P 500, and it appears we have a change in character. Capture of the 200 again. This has happened each time, and they've conditioned us now to believe that this is a bull trap. And it might be, but that's the conditioning. I will point out it is on positive momentum where none of the previous lows and captures were on positive momentum divergence. Not that it's required, but people love to see these divergences in price and momentum. You had it here at the top, and you now have it here at the bottom. Something to take note of. What I will say is capturing the 40 and the 50 on the daily is a big deal. Getting above the zero line on the histogram is a big deal. This look down here is a trend mode look, the same look you had right here, and the same look you had right here for the bears. And so what you want to see is this little inverse head and shoulders pattern showing a target of this trend line up here. So in my book, 410 to 415 is definitely in play before the election. We'll point out the ADX has gone to zero. So yeah, it's definitely not confirming trend mode. When you look at IWM, you have the clear leader, captured the 51st, negated this bear flag setup outside this descending channel, and weekly back above the 200. And this is now 1, 2, 3, fourth time at this level. In the same way that the others had this divergence, you have the divergence here as well. A clear double bottom look. I wouldn't be surprised to see IWM go up to 200, or at least tag the 50 on the weekly. And on the daily, you've got that same look above the zero line. ADX is rising with price. Needs to get above 25 to have any type of trend mode, in my opinion. So that's what we're looking at there. And I will point out, just trying to make these videos a bit quicker, SMH found support at the 618. Retrace of the COVID move has now captured the 20. Is at the middle of the descending channel and is playing a laggard role. You look at the weekly, lost the 200, tagged the 618 retrace like we talked about. And this entire move, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this being a triangle, ascending triangle, A, B, C, D, E, and then off to the races in its last little ending diagonal top. Actually, not ending diagonal top, apologies. And then correcting 618 of the entire move. No divergence over here. And obviously still well below the 20 on the weekly. So SMH is playing a laggard role, and who's it lagging to? In my book, it's IWM, it's IYT, and it's XLF. And XLF is 10% of IWM. You do have the positive divergence here. You do have the breakout on XLF. Again, ADX not confirming, but what ends up happening is ADX comes down here, goes sideways a whole bunch, and then the move is determined. Same thing happened here off the COVID lows, came down to zero, went sideways a whole bunch. This is zero, sideways a whole bunch, and then the direction is chosen. And so there's a lot left in the tank. Technically speaking, 35.97 is the target at minimum. And you could have this little target up here. That being said, XLF, IWM, they're the places to be. Also have that key level, this monthly retest going back to the 2007 crash, this great financial crash. And we've had this 5-wave move up. You had the ABC correcting this move. 50% correction. There's no way, there's no reason that can't just be a big 1-2, and now we're starting some massive move higher. this being the 1. Boom, another 50% correction. So that's kind of how this works. Also, the market loves to find these key pivots, break out above them, and then back test them. Right? Key pivot here, break out above, back test, new impulse higher. And you never really had that here. They couldn't get there. But key pivot here, breakout, back test, move higher. So this is definitely XLF, IWM are the places to be. I will bring up here a couple charts. Let's take a look at ES on the weekly. You did have the 913 sell setup, and now you've got a weekly 9 sell setup that's just started. So it's entirely possible this puts in a 913, 9, 7 more weeks, and then a big sell off at a lower high. Definitely possible. I will say NVIDIA put in a 913, 9 buy setup, captured the 10, captured the 200. This is the bear trap look. 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks below the 200. Now momentum is back at the 0 line and curling up. And again, still in this descending channel, falling wedge, whatever you want to call it, still below a declining 20. But in my opinion, this is definitely going to come tag the 20. That's what happens when you capture the 10. The goal is then to tag the 20. That's what happened here. That's what happened here. And now you're conditioned to think that this time it gets to the 20, it's going to fail. DeMark is really, really good at coming up with these timings. It doesn't necessarily mean that the top is going to come right away like you had here, the 913. It still had one hell of a move left in it before it did ultimately top. So there could definitely be more downside. But at this point, looking for downside is the wrong side of the trade. You can't watch momentum flip up, histogram being positive here on volume, and then say, oh, we need another low. You look for more lows down here. And when they're not confirmed, you switch your bias. SMH had the TD9 on the weekly, just pointing this out because TrendSpider does not use DeMark. Recaptured the 200 again after 4 weeks below. QQQ 913.9 buy setup, now flipped up this week with the a tag of the 10. And this does have the positive momentum, just like all the other ones do. So, time is telling us that sellers are exhausted. That is what DeMark is indicating. Sellers are exhausted, and it's time to look for a rally in the opposite direction. We're going to take a look here at more evidence confirming that IWM is outperforming QQQ and has been for the entire year, the same way she did in 2021. And that led to the blow-off top that you saw in many, many meme and small cap stocks back in March of 2021. I'm not saying that's where we're going now. What I'm saying is momentum is flipped up. Momentum is separating. Price is certainly going higher. This held the higher low. Okay. Came all the way back down, set a higher low, and is now rallying. Can definitely come up and set a lower high, and you've got a big sideways pattern. Could also come up and blow right through this. It's not for us to guess. It doesn't matter. All we need to know is that IWM is outperforming QQQ. IWM is now outperforming SPY, just like she basically has been all year. This, though, did set a lower low. Okay? Did set the lower low and is now outperforming, set a higher low, higher high, continuing to break that downtrend. So this is, once again, confirming everything that we're seeing in the charts, that IWM is where you need to be overweight. It's where I'm overweight. So let's keep moving along. We need IYT to bottom. This is a great place for IYT to bottom. All right, she topped first back here in May, set a lower high in November when SPY and QQQ and SMH were all setting higher highs, and sold off and has been leading the markets lower ever since, closed below the monthly 50, and is now looking to recapture. One thing I'd like to point out is this is what happens. Momentum gets extended, comes back to the 0 line, rallies, comes back to the zero line, rallies. All it's done at this point is come back to the zero line. It hasn't even rallied yet. There's been no rally yet. So it could be very, very, very early innings of this new bull trend. The bottom line is that it doesn't matter if this is the low or not. All you know is momentum is waning. You've got a new low here, lower low in price, higher low in momentum. That's what you want to see. And basically, price could come all the way back up here to 238, which is another 10% higher from where she is now. Now, she did not close the week above the 200 like IWM did, so that's something that you definitely need to take note of. But look for IYT and the sectors that are in IYT and the stocks that are in IYT to play catch up. And again, Dow Jones is leading higher. It's the first one to capture the 200. You would look for the transports to follow on the daily. You're not seeing that. They're way, way, way away. Okay, so it's entirely possible this pain is not over. I'm just trying to point out that this thing topped first, and it will bottom as well. And when it does bottom, that's when you see a lot of the big setups. Let's take a look at XLE, because I know a lot of people talk about this. This is a double top setup to me, plain and simple. 93 is the sell. You're in the zone where you're looking for sellers. Momentum is still pointing straight up, but the histogram is telling you that it's declining. ADX now is pointing down, again on a what looks like double top here at 55, maybe even a lower high than where we were back here, and this was lower than where we were here. This is the divergence that you see that people talk about all the time. Again, not required, but it's nice to see because it signifies that momentum is waning. And at this point, for them not to set another high would be a bit crazy. Still in this ascending channel, and again could come all the way up to 102. Could come all the way up to 116. No doubt about it. But again, we have now tested the 50 3 times, and the bottom of this channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So this channel has played out, and we've hit the top of the channel 3 times. And this is a gap, and they closed above that gap. Not by much, but they did. So from here, you would anticipate higher prices, and that those higher prices do ultimately get sold. Take a look at some of the stocks that are leading higher within XLE. This seems to be close to a sell. That's just what I see. This is not a place to take a long in energy. You say, oh, look, we're breaking out. This is a cup and handle. I don't see the handle. This just looks like a cup to me. And 116 remains the target. You look at the monthly on these things, 117 to 120 remains the target. But that PPO is screaming higher and has been for well over almost 2 years now. Okay, so these trends are great, but again, they get exhausted. And they get exhausted. You can see the ADX is not confirming. In obvious sense, mean there's still a divergence here. There's still a divergence here. So what the bulls would like to see is rally above this line. But again, not a place for new entries, in my opinion. You look at the daily, it could definitely rally a lot higher. And if you then draw this line, you'd say we're basically at the sell. Okay, so I'm not taking new longs here in energy names. That's not where I see the opportunity. Where I'm looking is again, the same names I constantly watch. I see Crocs here has ER this coming week. To me, this is still the inverse head and shoulders pattern. But again, momentum's flipping down. ADX is going up as price is going lower. This is certainly something to watch. This could be a massive breakdown. Could be a breakout. We'll see. Still way too early. ENPH has been a leader for me all year. You definitely have the head and shoulders look now, but it broke down, okay? You want to see the head and shoulders where the neck, the head, and the right shoulder then stay. Well, we broke that down. So in my opinion, this isn't a head and shoulders anymore. We'll say that momentum's screaming higher, and that, this could be a lower high. This could be a higher high. We'll have to wait and see. And the target that I have on this continues to be this line. The longer they wait, just like XOM, right? I think the energy trade is dying. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We got to take a look at TNX. This trade is dead. It's dying. I've been screaming for weeks now. The risk reward ever since September 26 has been awful for new entries here, meaning taking a look at bonds, it's been good for bonds. It's been a good time to start thinking about bonds. Again, we don't have the divergence. You don't have a weekly capture of EMA5. This is still a very, very, very strong downtrend. And again, I'm not jumping in front of this. I'm waiting to see how this plays out. And more specifically, I'm waiting for this ratio to flip down before we go bonds. If this ratio continues to favor SPY, then you should continue to look in SPY for outperformance. Very, very big development in the pot stock space. CGC has finally captured weekly 20 on volume while holding a higher low. Okay, and this is now the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th tag of the 20 and the 10, but specifically the 20 in the past 7-8 weeks, going back to the middle of August. She's also held the July low and is now looking to take this volume shelf and make it demand. And again, this downtrend that's been going on for essentially 2 years now may be breaking and closing above the weekly 20 for the first time since November 2021 is, since back here, not November 2021, a year and 7 months since she's been above the 20 is a significant change in character, and the volume is confirming it. And so what this is telling me is that the idea that IWM is outperforming is being confirmed by things like these meme companies, by Bitcoin capturing the 20 this week, momentum flipping up, right? Could easily rally to 25, 26. To look for this to continue, all right? When a stock like this captures a declining 20 that it's been below for almost a year and a half, almost 2 years, you have to take note. You have to realize that something significant is likely changing. And if they're covering over here, they're going to be covering everywhere else. Take a look at Google. First tag of the weekly 200 since COVID low. This has been in an uptrend for a very, very, very long time. And what's happened? Momentum's reset to zero. Talk about that all the time. Momentum to do some move, put in some type of corrective pattern that we call an ABC into a rising trend. The 20, the 40, the 50, the 30, whatever. Momentum to get back to zero, close to zero, flip up, right? Massive move higher, and now momentum's back towards the zero line as what? As prices coming into the monthly 50 for the first time since the COVID low. Same thing across the board with all of these stocks. You take a look at Apple, didn't even get to the 50. But that momentum on the monthly still down. Take a look at Amazon, a bit more troubling. Okay, bulls really don't want to see any time below these two blue lines. So far, so good. But this could get very ugly for the Qs. Now again, as I said, across the board, you have earnings gap, capitulation lows, and massive volume, massive buying of the lows. I'm not saying this is the low forever and I don't think like that. I don't care. What I'm trying to express is that while you have these new lows, you have higher lows in momentum. And that's what happens. That's how you find tops and bottoms. Momentum wanes, and then price rises or falls. And in this instance, we've had price falling on less momentum. This is where we look for reversals. And it's being led more specifically by IWM. All right. And if IWM gets above the 200, who wants to sell the 200 again? Do you want to sell the 200 again? I don't. You just had your chance to sell the 200. Now she's captured the 50. Right? Capturing the 50 is when she rallied for 13% more for another 4 weeks nearly. Well, that just happened. Puts price all the way back here at that POC. So again, you don't look and what would that make this? A big expanding, right? Which is definitely possible. Okay, we don't know. We don't care. We don't need to guess. You just need to look at what momentum's doing, look at what the trend's saying, and try to follow it. Okay? And then when it changes, like something over here, when this changes on massive volume, on divergence, when you see this change, take note and react. You know, you could have participated here. You had a low to trade against. You could have participated here. Definitely should not have been participating here. And now you have a chance to participate in these memes. And when you look around, it's not the big names that are rallying, right? It's the names like ARK. Momentum divergence, new low, higher low in momentum, break of downtrend. Now ARK, not at the 20. So if I were to take a risk on memes, why would I buy ARK? I'd rather just buy the memes that are above the weekly 20. Right? And so this is kind of how we look at this. It's kind of how we look to scan for relative strength. And again, like I already told you, it's XLF, right? So why wouldn't I look at JPM? You should. Back above the 200 on the weekly. Look at the 20, well above the 20. Look at what just happened. The 5 crossed above the 10. So any dips into the 5 are for buying. Until what? Until the 5 crosses back below the 10 or the 5 is lost. However aggressive a trader you want to be. But the idea is to let these trends unfold. Like, look, the 5 crossed the 10 here and stayed below this entire time. One bull trap here. One bull trap here. Right? They get you to believe it doesn't work, that these signals are useless. Go back test them. Go look at it. I show the data all the time. So what you want to see is, you know, this hold, the 5 and the 10. Yes. Is it extended from the 5 and the 10? Yes. Could there be a pullback? Yes. Did she close above the top of the weekly Bollinger Band? Yes. That signals a breakout. All right. And it's our job to take note of these changes. That's it. It's not our job to guess. All right. Now we'll wrap this up here with a look at gold. Yep. Still going to zero. Still doing nothing. Look, the 510, look at the space. Still in the descending channel. Avoid. Silver. Avoid. Still in a descending channel. Now the bands are pinching, which is telling me something could be coming here. Momentum flipped up, which is definitely a positive sign for silver. I don't have that for gold. And again, you know, it's underperforming this. So what should you really be doing? You should be scanning IWM for stocks that are outperforming. So let's take a look at some of the stuff that we've already done here. These are the Russell 1000 stocks that are up the most off the 52-week lows. Here's your list of stocks to look at. Twitter, Roblox, Netflix, Coin. Is any of this making sense? How do you identify relative strength? Right? You got to see it in the pair chart. Let's go take a look at some of those charts. Roblox. above the 20. 5 cross above the 20. 20's pointing up. ADX is going up with price. Held the lows from May. Why can't this go higher? It can go a lot higher. A lot higher. All right? I mean, you just have no idea. Just let the trend tell you what's going on. These are the names that are outperforming. Take a look at Netflix. Outperforming. PPO screaming higher. Daily recaptured the 200. 50's about to cross the 200. This looks like the start of a new bull trend. Now, what I will say is this also looks like it's overextended and it's going to pull back to what? To the 20. All right, and that's where you're going to really see the test. Again, you want to see these trends hold. You want to see momentum wane all the way back to the 0 line like we saw back here, even went negative. And now you're going to see what's left in the tank. And if you take off and show the gap here, just visually speaking, price could come all the way up to 375 on less and less momentum and then pull all the way back. But regardless, this was a breakout. This was a former area of resistance, a large pivot, a large selling took place here, a huge base. Price went sideways for how long? For 6 months, price went sideways. And now you're above. Okay, so any pullbacks to 266 to 248 are stone cold buys on Netflix. That's where you're looking to take a trade. And you can keep doing this over and over and over, right? Keep scanning. What names are doing best? Etsy. Which stories have the best stories? You know, hey, coin related to Bitcoin. Are we ever going to see a bottom in coin? Is Coinbase ever going to make any money? Right? And right here, we don't have it yet. So if I were to look at these and rank them, like, why would I take coin, which is still below the 200, when Netflix is above it? Who do you think is going to outperform? Right? And you can even play this game. Come on over. Come check. Come prove it. Coin is losing to Netflix. Netflix is outperforming IWM. Right? Well, not sure what I did there. Either way, right? It's your job to identify the stocks that are the sectors that are outperforming and then take them. Okay, so we'll go through a couple reports and then we'll end this here real quick. So the gamma exposure relative to market cap ratio has been at one of its lowest levels since 2020. And this is generally where you see seller exhaustion. The trend on the NASDAQ is at levels not seen since the beginning of the year, generally screaming buy. We got that rally. That rally is still happening. Pair chart for small caps versus NASDAQ. NASDAQ's been outperforming for a decade. And as I showed you earlier on that chart, right? The higher low, okay? The higher low. This could go for a long, long time. A very long time. Just keep an open mind that small caps could outperform Qs for a very long time. NIM sentiment was its lowest essentially since 2020. All right, which was its lowest since 2015. All of these marked major lows. And another rare breadth thrust fired. The NDR, I recommend everyone follow Ned Davis Research. 3-day price thrust indicator fired yesterday. It's the only short-term thrust indicator in their toolbox. It did not signal earlier this year at all. And here are the results looking forward. Yep. And so that's pretty much all I've got to share. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share it, and I'll see you next week.